Hey guys, what's up? This is Casey. This is Coach Tom. This is Shot Science Overtime number 104. And we're going to do what we do every single week at 1 p.m. Pacific time on Sundays is we're going to have our live show where we start off with a topic that we think is going to help you guys develop your game or make you a better player or make things easier on you in your life of basketball. And while we're doing that, you guys are going to send us your questions. So anything basketball related, it can be on shooting, how to develop your ball handling, how to work on your passing, how to talk to your coach, how to develop your vertical jump or work on strength and conditioning, whatever you want it to be, just send us your questions and we will do our best to answer those or send you in the right direction to get the answers. And so send those to us right now. We are at Shot Science on Twitter, which is the best place to reach us. You can reach us on Facebook, Google+, and also on the YouTube feed of this video right now. And so we're looking forward to your guys' questions. Then after we're done with our topic, we'll get back to you guys and we'll start answering those questions for the rest of the time. So if you want your question answered on air and we'll shout you out and everything, just start sending those to us. Okay, so our topic for today is 2 ways to increase your shooting accuracy. And there's more than 2 ways, but we're going to just kind of give you 2 major ones that we think are kind of things you should start with at least. So what do you think?
Well, there's the 2 ultimate things that come to my mind right off are, number one, making sure that we focus on your target. So often I think students don't really have a place, or players don't really have a target in mind, except for ones that have been identified for them, like the back rim or the front rim. And some people,
people want like a very specific thing.
Yeah, and in reality, what we have found out over the years is that if we focus on like the back rim, that usually is, if we hit it, that's what you're trying to do. If we hit it, it's probably not going to go in. What's going to happen is that the ball probably is going to end up being a long rebound, especially if we have a flat arc. And so we never really teach people to focus on the back rim or the front rim for about the same reason. If we focus on the front rim, then we probably are going to be short, and it's also going to result in a rebound. So one of the things that we like to do is to have our players focus on the entire opening of that basketball or of the basket. And oftentimes people will say, oh, yeah, but Coach, you can't see that. Well, you can. It is clearly outlined by that rim all the way around, and so it gives you this target that you can lay the ball into. One of the things that you don't see, though, is that usually when you're focusing on that target, you see an oval-shaped opening just because of how you relate to the basket.
Well, you have to kind of be more visual about it. You can't be so set in having like a bullseye target. And if you have kind of like a soft focus is kind of like the best way to explain it. And if you think about, if you were to take a dartboard and lay it on top of the rim like that, if you're going to throw a dart at that, you're not going to be throwing it at the back rim. You're not going to be throwing it at the front rim. What you're going to do is you're going to lob it up and you're going to try to hit it so that it falls right down in the middle of that thing. So that's kind of how you have to visualize what the rim looks like when you're shooting a basketball, is taking that dartboard and laying it right down on top so that the bullseye is right in the middle. Because if you hit that bullseye, then there's no way the ball is going to miss, because the ball is smaller than the opening is around where the bullseye is. So try to visualize that more. The nest, or kind of like the bullseye area of that dartboard that you lay down.
Yeah. And, I seriously think that those targets, the front and back rim, were originated, long before I was a kid too, is kind of what your focus was. And I think truly that the reason that they chose the back rim certainly is kind of this mentality. And I don't necessarily buy into it in basketball. In golf, there's an old saying there that kind of goes like this: when you hit the ball and the ball does not get there, it can't go in. And so there's a saying in golf: never up, never in. And so you could probably include that into basketball as well, because if the ball doesn't get there, it doesn't really have a chance to go in.
Yeah, it's really
with the idea of focusing on the back rim, the idea is that you're probably going to be long enough, and that if it falls short of that, well, that all is good as well.
Yeah,
we just don't have to buy that as a good target.
Well, so, I mean, it's one way to do it. It's just not the best way to do it.
Well, not in our opinion, though.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that you're right. I think it's more about trying to get the ball at least over the front rim,
Yeah.
because then at least has a chance, I guess.
Yeah.
But if you really want to kind of up your accuracy, then aim for the most accurate target, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
absolutely.
that makes more sense. All right. So
and then are we ready to go to the second
yeah, I was
item?
just going to say,
the second item, kind of in my mind, and Casey's going to add some thoughts on his too, but in my mind is we have to really have that good arc. And the arc plays such an important role in a lot of ways. Number one, like Casey was talking about a while ago with the dartboard, if you have that nice arc, that's going to probably give you the ball a better look at the basket as it's falling down toward it. We often use this analogy. If the ball had eyes and it was looking at the basket when it was on its way, if it's a flat arc, the basket is going to look very, very oval shaped. And in reality, it doesn't change the shape. It's just the fact because the approach
perspective.
The perspective or the approach is just going to make it seem like that. And so you have a smaller area. So
if you get more arc on it, then all of a sudden that oval shape starts to open up.
Exactly.
And the ball sees that. And so you're giving yourself more kind of usable area to get the ball in there.
Exactly. And
we have a video on that too.
Yeah, we do. And the thing that's real important there to remember is that what is a good arc? And, you know, there are a lot of people around who kind of talk about certain degrees of angle. We kind of think and like the 45 to 55 degree angle of attack as the ball is falling down toward the basket, because that's when we think it's got the largest size that works for you. Some people profess that you should probably have a little more, and I think it's all personal perspective for them as well, and it is for us too.
It depends on height and reach too, because you have to factor in that as well.
A little bit, yeah.
And you know, the other thing too is that if you have a shot that's too flat, obviously you're going to have that small target.
Exactly.
But if you have a ball that has too much arc on it, what you're doing there is you're adding more distance, which will kind of have a diminishing return to you in terms of being accurate. So
exactly.
you have to find kind of that perfect zone that works for you,
right,
in terms of having good high arc. Like too high arc can be a problem as well.
Yeah, your accuracy tends to fall off, in our opinion, after you get past that 55 degree angle. And the steeper it gets, then usually the ball follows this kind of a path, which doesn't work very well.
It's because
you tend to be short more often than not.
Yeah, and you're also adding distance as well. So
exactly.
It's going to be a variable that will make your shot like you're shooting from further away almost.
Yeah. So what you kind of want is what I think they call this a parabola. The path of that shot wants to be kind of like this. And if you get so that it's attacking the basket at about a 45 to 55 degree angle, that's pretty good. We like that.
But you also shouldn't be out there with your protractor trying to figure that stuff out.
No.
You know, you have to visualize that a little bit as well. If you're trying to do too much math on your shot like that, then that's going to be a problem as well. You're probably better off spent kind of experimenting and seeing what works and what looks right, as opposed to being super precise. I mean, some people will maybe take that too far and break out the protractor and all that. But
and you really can't do that. It is all just a kind of a learning process. And this is how we teach our players to recognize what that arc looks like. What does the ball look like when it lands on the rim? Because when it lands on the rim and it bounds up, then we're looking pretty good on our arc. If the ball hits the rim and comes back and there's a long rebound, we're too flat. Or if it hits and it bounds up against the glass and comes back kind of high on the glass and comes back, that's not really good either. So you kind of have to experiment. You know, we have a shooting machine that we use, and we really want everybody to be able to get that ball so it's consistent in the arc. And so that's how we start with it, is getting it over that screen. And then oftentimes they'll go in, I won't see them for a week or so, and they'll come back and that shot's flattened out. So we got to go back and spend some time kind of re-educating, because that's where the greatest accuracy is going to come, is when we have that nice arc.
Yep. So
those are two things.
So think about that. Shooting at the nest, and shooting with a little bit more arc. And we have 2 videos that you can check out for those as well. The first one is shooting at the nest. I think, what's your target or something
what's
like
your target?
that.
I think that's what it is,
so if you look up that one in our video library, you'll be able to find that, and we show you in graphic detail exactly what you want to be looking at. And then number 2 is how to get the perfect arc, I think is the name of the
get perfect arc.
Yeah, so go check out those 2 videos. Another thing that we would throw on there, just because it's kind of part of our whole philosophy on shooting, is that you want to have an efficient shot. Because if your shot is efficient and you don't have any sticking points, there's no extra extraneous stuff on there that you don't need, like flaring anything or kicking anything or adding a dip to the ball or whatever it is, all that stuff is eliminated because you have proper footwork and you go right up into your shot. Being efficient like that will allow you to be repeatable. And if you're able to repeat that same shooting motion all the time, and you don't have any kind of like weird wonky stuff going on that deviates it, you'll be able to have a much higher accuracy. So with efficiency, you get repeatability, which lends to accuracy, which lends to scoring points.
And example of one of the things that Casey's talking about is I often have students who will be all set for the shot and then they'll reset before they shoot. And usually that is the result of them not feeling like they have enough power to get it there. And power doesn't really come that much from the upper body and arms. It comes from the lower body. And so that little reset is just one of those things that is not efficient. That's kind of the thing he's talking about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a ton of those things. There's
probably a dozen of them.
People that have kind of those hitches in their shots where they go up and then they stop and then they go up again, or they dip the ball, or they have weird wonky footwork, or they
have a wrist finish that goes like this and pulls back, or we get here and just kind of tap the ball as we release it. All of those things are not efficient, and they're not going to help your shooting very much.
Yeah. So the more repeatable your shot is, the more accurate it will end up being, just because you don't have any variables that are going on in your shot.
And that repeatability has to do with things that are going to make your shot effective. If you can have repeatability on things that are just going to keep you from ever scoring very much at all. We don't want that. You want to have good shooting mechanics, and those are what you want to be repeatable time after time after time.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I say you want to be efficient. That leads to repeatability. That leads to accuracy. You don't want to be inefficient and repeatable and then inaccurate.
Yeah, right.
So so that's kind of the progression that you really need to follow. It's just getting a really efficient shooting motion, and then working diligently using the 3 pillars of practice that we talk about all the time to really dial that in and make it repeatable. And if you're able to make it repeatable, you're going to be able to step into a game and you're going to be super accurate. Yeah. So that's really how all those great shooters get to that point. Ray Allen or Steph Curry, or even Klay Thompson just had that incredible game the other day. Those guys, I mean, they essentially have these efficient shots, and they kind of move towards repeatability, which lends to their accuracy now. So those are kind of our 2.5 ways to increase your shooting accuracy. So hopefully those help you guys. I mean, do we have anything else that we want to add on to that?
I think that's good for today.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you guys have more questions on accuracy or shooting at all, I mean, just let us know and we'll try to throw some more stuff in there. Make sure you check out those videos. I think we said the nest, which we talked about, which is what target. Should I aim for, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then also the Get Perfect Arc, I think is the next one. So check out those videos. Those will help you immensely, I think. And we'll do better than we can explain it, just because we show you how to do it. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to shut down the topic for today, and we're going to jump right into taking questions from you guys. If you want to send us your questions, make sure you send them to us on Twitter is the best place. We are at Shot Science there. You can also send them to us in the chat here of the video on YouTube, which is a great place. And you can also send them to us on Facebook and Google+. Wherever you want to try to hit us up, we will be there, and we will try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. Yeah. And if you could, make sure you go out and tell your family or friends or whoever's into basketball to come watch our shows, because it helps us get cool guests on. We've had the professor was on a couple weeks ago. We've had NBA players like Danny Green from the San Antonio Spurs on. We've had some college coaches, and we've had some coaches that help get kids into college programs on as well. So if you guys are interested in those types of guests, make sure you go out and share, because that really helps us out. Okay, so let's get into some of these questions. The first one is going to be from Taylor Porter, who says, how do I overcome fear and nervousness before games, such as pregame mental warmups?
You know, one of the things that I think that is really good is a certain level of tension before you play. And maybe that's a little nervousness. And what usually happens is that once that ball is tossed and we're into the game, usually those fears kind of dissipate or go away really pretty quickly. And I think that kind of nervousness is not a bad thing. The one thing that you want to kind of do is see if you can minimize it to the point where you're just, you can't hardly gather yourself together. Everybody's a little anxious when they play, especially in games that are kind of maybe more important than others. But what you find out is that you usually will relax pretty quickly once they toss that ball up and the game is underway.
Well, I mean, he's already talking about mental warm-up. So one of the things that you can do is mentally go through what it's going to be like to actually play in that game already, and kind of go through the steps of that. And, that just takes a lot of visualization, obviously. Yeah. But, maybe you've put in the work out on the, when you practice out on the court, you can pretend like you're playing in that actual game. Yeah. Or, maybe you're already in the locker room and stuff, but you could also project yourself already playing in the game and going through some of the stuff that you might be facing out there as well. I mean, there's a ton of things you can do. One of the things that you need to just do is let it go too, because some people get so worked up and they put themselves, either they're thinking about what happened in the past, or they're thinking about what's happening in the future, and they psych themselves out so, to the point where they are just not able to perform at all. So you need to just live in the moment and know that you can't do anything past what is happening right now. And so maybe just kind of think about and focus on the jump ball or something like that, and know that that's when the game starts, and that's when you're really going to have to start the play, and then just play, and don't worry about what happened before or what happened after.
In those a day or so, or in the evening before, I think good mental rehearsal is really a good idea. But you can't rehearse for everything that you're going to be facing. But maybe there is a key person that on the other team that you need to kind of feel, or that you feel like you need to give special attention to. What am I going to do? And kind of rehearse that before you go out and play. And this kind of visualization kind of help you once you get into the flow of the game. Okay, then you've kind of rehearsed it already, and it's easy for you to get into.
Well, I just think
the whole idea of being nervous is very natural for all of us.
I just think when you're going through doing those visualizations and mental rehearsals and stuff, you need to project yourself being successful in those moments too.
Absolutely.
You project yourself. I don't think it even really matters who the other people are necessarily, but put yourself in that position where, you're taking them off the dribble, you're taking them off the shot. You're just really kind of focusing in on being successful in that situation.
Well, and on the defensive side of the game, one of the things that we spend time with individuals is, if we've got somebody that is particularly adept as a shooter, then we want you to be thinking about what you need to do to deal with that particular person. And what are some of the situations? Maybe they run a little flare to him, and we want to make sure we don't get hooked, caught up on screens, and that we're able to stay with them. And so those are the kind of rehearsal kind of things that you can help yourself with prior to actually going out and playing.
All right. Next question. This one is from Josh Greer, who is at Josh_Greer47 on Twitter. He says, will shooting on a lower hoop help shooting on a regulation hoop?
I don't think it really does. You can practice on a lower basket, and I think probably adapt to a higher basket relatively quickly. But I don't think it's a good lead up to do it that way.
I think that if you're a young kid and you're 7, 8 years old, you should not be shooting on a regulation basket just because it's too high. You shouldn't be using a regulation basketball either. But sometimes people send us questions and they say that they have a 9.5-foot hoop. Is it cool if I shoot at that? Blah blah blah. That's probably okay, but you have to realize that there is going to be kind of a transition period, or just kind of a familiarization period between you shooting on that hoop and then going up to a regulation hoop. It's not just going to translate automatically. I think that you're going to probably find problems if you're shooting at an 8-foot hoop and then you try to jump up to a 10-foot hoop.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the best, because, if you're kind of already, 12, 13 years old and you're shooting on a hoop that's short, you're probably going to develop some really crappy shooting mechanics.
Yep.
Your shot's probably going to be flat. You're not going to have a very good perspective in terms of your target, because it's going to be way shorter than it would be if it was a 10-foot hoop. So, I mean, if you can, try to shoot at what you're going to shoot at in a game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the best advice. If you don't have that option, I mean, obviously you just got to do what you got to do. But best case scenario is to actually have a regulation hoop, right? Okay, this one is from the Derek Person 123 in the comments here. He says, my basketball season is coming to an end and I only have 3 games left. I want to get a lot better for next year. This is my first year of competitive basketball and it was a great experience. I want to become a better player and start games next season. My team is a very good defensive team, but we struggle to score the ball. What do you recommend I work on to become a better scorer? I play as a guard. What should I work on to become a better scorer to help my team? Oh, man. What shouldn't you work on? It's really the thing.
Exactly.
I mean, you have to work on developing yourself to become an all-around better offensive player. I mean, we don't know much about your defense other than you say that you guys are good at defense. But in terms of offense, I mean, you need to be able to shoot. You need to be able to take it to the basket. You need to be able to distribute the ball. You need to be able to take care of the ball. I mean, that's really the basics of it.
That's right. All of which you can kind of get information, all that stuff from our videos. And it's in a playlist usually that will help you to kind of pick out what it is that you want to deal with. But Casey's absolutely right on. That's how you approach the whole thing, is that get busy and you want to touch every facet of offensive basketball and probably every facet of defensive basketball as well. And play as much as you can in the off season. Using
play as much as you can, but also work on developing your skills too.
Absolutely. That was where I was going to go, is the fact that Casey often talks about the 3 pillars, and those really will help you to not only uncover or discover what it is that you need to work on, your weaknesses possibly, and then also how to do it. You go through that period of learning, go through that period of game speed execution, and finally taking all of that to the games. And if you get a chance where you can play maybe on a travel team or that sort of thing, that would be really good as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they want us to tell them, oh, you should work on your shooting, or you should work on just attacking the basket. That's really not a good way to approach this stuff. You want to be able to do all those things, because if you're able to do that, the defense isn't going to be able to take what you like to do away from you. If you're able to shoot, then they have to respect that, and they're going to play off of you, they're going to have to play up on you, so that you'll be able to or they're going to force you to take it off the dribble. That was not a good explanation, but if they're playing, if you can really take it off the dribble, then they have to respect that and they have to play off of you. So you need to be able to shoot. So if you are only working on one of those things, they can shut you down completely. And we always talk about, you should be a great basketball player, not just, good at one specific thing or stuck in one position, like a point guard or whatever. You need to be great all around, because that will help you be able to fit in anywhere. And you'll also be much more difficult to take kind of the things that you want to do away when you want to do them.
Well, yeah, I think that that's probably a key point for everybody too. And the fact that sometimes they think in terms that, okay, I'm a big, or I'm a 5, or I'm a wing, or I'm a 1-2 guard, combo guard, or whatever. In reality, what we really like is the idea that you're able to play basketball.
Right.
And when you can play basketball, you can play any one of those spots on the floor. And the only serious difference between playing a post and playing outside is one is facing the basket and the other usually has a basket back to the basket. But you need to be a basketball player first.
Yeah, I mean, if you can do both, you can be the point guard that takes the other point guard down to the post, and then that guy's in trouble because he doesn't face that very often.
Well, yeah, you take a great example, and probably young people won't remember this very much, but an example would be maybe Magic Johnson. He was a point guard at 6'9", but you get him down to the post, and he's going to post you up and really beat you up on that one too. So being an all-around player, a basketball player, is way more important than just being a post player or being a 1 or a 2 or whatever.
Yeah, Or, I mean, modern day, look at Dirk Nowitzki. That guy
Oh, yeah.
should be playing in the post, but he's not a post player.
Nope.
But he can. Okay, next question is from Corey Schubart, who says, tips to get your shot back, like after you've been making shots for past games and you can't make one to save your life in the next few games.
Very, very common thing to happen, Corey. In fact, I deal with that with my students all the time. Coach, I can't hit anything anymore. Well, typically what happens is that you kind of lose purpose or vision on your shot, and little things creep into it that screw it up. One thing that is, I was working with a young fellow the other day, good shooter, really a good high school level player, and his shot had left him, and he had a couple of games where he just was having a hard time. Well, as it turns out, what was happening is that he was pronating his wrist too far to the outside like this on the release, and it was just pulling the ball over to the side. And he wasn't really aware of that, didn't pick it up. And that's one of the things I think is really important, is that if you have somebody you work with on your shooting and you're having problems, go to them and just have them watch you for a few minutes. Usually they can figure out what it is. Some people have a tendency to release the ball with the hand going to the inside.
Well, I think also just being your own best coach is the best way to do that, because you'll be able to diagnose what's going on. If your ball is coming off the left-hand side of the rim every single time, you know what you're doing, because there's only a few reasons that can happen. Or, if the other thing too is, like, if you are always shooting and you're not analyzing your shot, then you will start to do kind of wonky things that will creep in. And, I don't know if it's just because it feels more comfortable, or because you think you're trying to have more style or swag or whatever. And you start adding in something because you think it looks cool. I don't know what it is, but that's going to happen. And if you are able to look at your shot objectively and see, oh, I need to stop, pronating or supinating, or I need to stop, dropping the ball here, or I need to elevate my arm more, whatever it is, that will help you get your shot back. But also, the other thing that we would say is keep shooting. Stop worrying about the fact that you're missing a bunch of shots, because that'll only sabotage you more. And, work on consistent practice too, because if you're only working on your shooting, 1 day a week or something like that, then you're not going to have consistent results either.
Well, there's several things that kind of come to my mind on this, is that if you have developed your shot yourself, oftentimes you're unaware of what it is that you are doing, and it's hard for you to assess exactly the problem that you're having. And so one of the things that we have found over the years that really seems to be, without question, a way to help yourself, and that is always focus on the finish. When you're having troubles with your shot, focus on the finish, and that is where you're actually getting out and finishing the shot. And that usually is the area where you're having most of the problems. Okay. Another thought that was there that slipped out. Don't know where.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the basic thing is just keep working on your shot.
Yeah.
Also, go check out our video on fix your shot, I think is what it's called. And we run you through exactly how to kind of analyze, how to go off how you're missing shots, to kind of analyze them back and figure out how to fix it. So check that out. Okay. If you guys want your questions answered, best place to hit us up is on Twitter. We are at Shot Science there. We're getting a lot of questions in the comments, and it's going to be hard to get to all those. So Twitter is the place to hit us. This one's from It's Jimbo in the comments, who says, I overthink when I play sometimes. My coach says I know what to do and should feel the game, but when I try to do that, I either don't get the ball at all, or I'm not involved on either end of the floor. When the team starts going through a bad stretch, I try to be more controlling. For example, wanting the ball to make a difference, then I think too much with what's going on to the basket, or I think too much with going to the basket, shooting, etc., which results in me making bad plays and forcing the issue. I'm one of the more experienced players on the team, and coach looks for me to be a leader. How do I get that balance of taking control and feeling the game? Supposed to be out of control and thinking too much? Thanks, James. Okay. If you're overthinking when you play, then you've already diagnosed your problem there. One of the things that you might want to work on is just getting more experience, because the more experience you have, kind of the less you really have to think and contemplate about things, because you know where they're going to go, and you kind of have that muscle memory of how to handle it. And, developing your skills more also makes you more confident, because if you know your skills are there, then you're not going to worry about them not being there. And, I think that if you're worried about not getting the ball and things like that, that comes back to maybe you should be putting more effort into moving without the ball and setting up situations that will help you kind of be undeniable in terms of getting you the ball. So do things like the L cut, the V cut, set screens, backdoor, rotate on when the ball gets passing the post,
Flash the middle.
flash the middle. There's so many things that you can do, but this is kind of a little bit more complicated of a question than just do this.
Yeah.
So I think that those are kind of the things that we would tell you to work on.
Well, here's the other thing that comes to my mind as I'm reading this is that you're making an awful lot out of all of this. And probably what you need to do is just settle down and just let yourself play. If you're not getting the basketball, there's a good reason for that. Number one, either your teammates don't trust you, which is probably not true, or you're not working hard enough to get the basketball. And that comes down to playing without the basketball. And then when you have it, maybe you're trying to do too much, where you're trying to take all that load on yourself to try and finally get the thing rolling. And it's an incredible player who can really take that on and make it happen. And those guys aren't very plentiful. What you need to do is just play your game and not try to play at some level beyond your capabilities. I think that probably would help you a whole lot. Just back off a little bit, be more active in your movement on the floor. In fact, we talk about that on a regular basis too. And that is oftentimes we don't know what to do when we don't have the basketball in our hands. And a comment, I was working with a young lady this morning and her dad was really perplexed because she stands around too much. Okay. And so we went through a whole series of things that she needs to think about in getting ready to play and without the basketball. And the things we've discussed these number of times before. You can screen on ball, you can screen off ball, you can flash the middle, you can make back cuts, you can go all the way to the opposite side of the floor. Just keeping your defender busy. And so they can't
setting up opportunities for your teammates too.
Exactly. And we can screen on ball, we can screen off ball, we can down screen, we can cross screen. All those things are things that keep your defender busy so that they can't lock down and help out somebody else who's defending the ball.
Yeah. Okay. So we need to close it out, but also just ease up on yourself. You are not the savior of your team. You are just one member of your team.
Exactly.
Just play and have fun and do those things that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to go to Twitter again. This one's from John O2, who's at John_MUT17. He says, any tips on how to defend the 2-1 and the 3-2 fast break? I think that there's some kind of things that you need to always focus on. And number one is stopping the ball. A lot of people just wait, and all of a sudden the guy's got a layup because they're trying to defend two people at once or whatever they're trying to do. You need to figure out a way to make that ball handler either change his mind without him wanting to, or actually go stop the ball. And the real problem there is, like, if you're on a 2-1 break, that if you commit to that guy, then he's just going to dump it to the other guy. So what we teach people, and we have a video on this as well, is to do something like that we call the break breaker, which is essentially you're falling back on those two guys. But what you do is, as that guy starts to attack, you fake at him, you make him have to change what he's doing. He might have to, change directions, or maybe he's about to pass or something like that. But if you fake at him, he's got to make a quick decision. And then what you do is you fake and you fall back into that passing lane. And he's either going to pick up the ball because you freaked him out, or he's going to kick it out of bounds, or he's going to try to pass it to that guy and you're right on the passing lane. But you have to force that guy to do something. If you just keep falling back, then he's just going to get a layup on you.
And if you try to play him one-on-one, most players are very capable of giving it to the other guy, and they've got a layup anyway. But one of the things so important, as Casey mentioned here, is that when you make that hard hedge toward that defender, and it's an attempt to get him to pick up the ball or give it up, and then you fall back in the direction where he's going to be passing it and keep your hands low, he's probably going to be throwing a bounce pass most of the time. And so as you make that hard hedge at him to get him to stop, and then you fall away, get your hand down into that bounce passing path, sometimes you get a deflection. You have nothing else, you've delayed them for a moment while the troops to get there.
And here's the thing. all you guys need to have this mentality when you're playing basketball. And it doesn't matter if you're playing defense or if you're playing offense. And it's that you should be the one that's in control and making the decisions and forcing whoever is playing against you to react to you. If you're waiting for people and you're waiting to react, that already puts you behind. And you have to, catch up essentially. So if you're playing on defense and you got two guys coming at you, if you wait and you try to react to that guy, it's going to be too late.
Yeah.
He's either going to dump the pass or he's going to get an easy layup. There's no way that you can just hang back and let it happen. Maybe you'll meet him at the rim, but there's two guys. It's really not stacked in your favor. Right. What you do is you force him to make a decision he wasn't planning on making, and that puts you in control, and that essentially makes him having to react and catch up to what you're doing. So that is the way you should approach all this stuff in basketball. And, the same is especially true on offense. You need to be the one in control, not letting the defense dictate what you do.
One of the things about that hedge and recover, and like Casey said, we have a video on that. You can't execute that too far from the basket. We like to have our defensive people run to the front of the basket. And that's where we're going to make that hard hedge, is at the basket. If we don't get back far enough,
it's not at the basket.
Hang on a second.
It's down and
exactly. It's got to be down toward the basket. If we hedge too far away, we're done. They're still going to get us. But if we get it down and close that basket, and that's where we make that hard hedge, we're probably going to be successful, at least slowing them down.
Yeah, and on any break, it doesn't matter if you have numbers back and you're good, you should still stop the ball before the guy, gets all the way down into the danger zone there. It just doesn't make any sense to let people push the ball down to where, they can essentially make things happen. Stop the ball.
Yeah.
That should be your main directive. Okay, because they need it to score. I mean, makes sense, right? Okay, this one's from Jesus Castro. He says, hey, Shot Science, how are you guys? I'm having trouble keeping my shot release high. Any advice? Thanks and have a great rest of your day. Well, thank you. Okay, yes. In terms of having a higher release, one of the things that we always talk about is making sure you have your shooting elbow finish above your shooting eye. So here's my shooting eye and here's my shooting elbow. If it's a flat shot, look at that. It's lower than my shooting eye. But if I have a nice high release, then it's going to be above my shooting eye, right?
Exactly right. And the thing is that you only can achieve that by spending time working on it.
Yep.
It's not something where you can click a switch and now it works. It just takes time.
And and when people can identify the problems with their whatever they're doing, but especially like in shooting, if you've identified the problem, it's really on you then to kind of put in the diligent work and kind of dial that stuff all in. If you think that we can tell you this magic thing, like, oh, well, if you click your heels and you swallow this pill, then you're going to be good. That's not going to happen. I mean, all this stuff is going to take work and effort, mostly on your part. And so do the three pillars of practice. We talk about dialing in, doing the diligent work, game speed, game intensity, and then getting the actual game experience. Like, that's really how you dial that stuff in. And for stuff like shooting and figuring out your release, form shooting drill is the best thing to really start off with.
Okay, we have a video on that.
Oh, and also if you do the kind of the one-handed form shooting, it's really hard to have like a really flat shot because the ball starts to roll out of your hand. So if you work on that one-handed form shooting, you're going to have a lot better kind of results, just because it kind of takes that you can't really have a flat shot when you're trying to shoot that one-handed shot. Okay, this one is from Ali B, who said, as I said on Instagram, we won. How do I step up my game for the next step and make sure to secure the next W for my team?
There is no magic answer to that one. One of the things that is important is that you want to maintain a high level of play. And it's not like you can go along here and you're just having a nice, even level play and then all of a sudden jump up. I mean, that's not real. You want to just stay consistent, play hard, work really hard in practice. Those are the kind of things that kind of help you elevate your game. But it's not in huge jumps. It's usually a very flat incline where you get better and better as you spend more time on the game.
Well, I mean, here's the thing is that a lot of people think that there are going to be like these clicking points for that kind of stuff or whatever. But most of the time when you're making those strides, it's going to be in practice and when you're developing your skills. That's where you really develop confidence. If you don't have the skills, you're not going to be successful in the games, and then your confidence isn't really going to be there. But if you develop the skills and then have success, that's where you start building the confidence. And in terms of like stepping up your game and stuff like that, that really comes down to the practice that you put in and the skills you develop there. And like you said, it's going to be kind of like a slow road, but if you're consistent, that's really going to help you.
That's way more important than playing the ups and downs and ups and downs. And that just comes from diligent practice.
But here are some things to step up your game. You can do the little things that don't necessarily require all that much skill. It's mostly about effort and mentality approach.
Yeah.
And that's stuff like, diving for balls, showing leadership, showing effort, initiative, going after rebounds, and being smart about blocking people out. There's so many things that you can do that really help kind of in a less obvious way, but it's stuff that definitely your coach will pick up and will help also your team be more successful because you're doing all these things. Moving without the ball would be another example. Okay, so good luck. Let us know how that goes for you. And here's Dr. St. Pierre who says, hey, my shot is good. When I release, my right hand lightly bumps into my left hand. Hold on. When I release, my right hand slightly bumps into my left hand. Does this do, I guess you're asking, does this do something to your shot? That's a little weird there. Yeah, well, I mean, that's one of those variables that you want to eliminate. We can't tell you that it's helping you or hurting you because we can't see it. But, if there's anything that kind of deviates from really good, solid mechanics, then it could be affecting your shot, right?
Yeah. And now we don't know if you're right or left-handed. Release my right hand lightly bumps. Okay, so you must be right-handed. Lightly bumps into the left. That shouldn't happen. Here's the important thing to remember when you're shooting basketball. If you're a right-hander or left-hander, just the opposite. As you are ready to release, this hand should actually come off the basketball. And if you watch the really good shooters at most any level, that's what happens, is that this hand releases off the basketball as we're finishing the shot. Not early, but as we're finishing.
Yeah, I mean, as you're elevating that.
Yeah, and one of the things that is really important there, and most people don't really think too much about this, but the thumb of the offhand is a huge culprit in accuracy and shooting because it wants to impart this kind of rotation usually on the ball, which creates sideways rotation on the basketball. So I don't know if that's what's going on, but you should not have those hands running into one another. They should not touch.
Yeah, like we said, another variable.
Yeah.
Okay, we are running out of time. So if you guys want your questions answered, send them to us on Twitter. That's really the best place. Okay, this one is from Philip Shu in the comments, who says, how can I get more range on my shots? We have videos on this.
Yeah, we do.
But basically, give the rundown here.
The rundown, just very quickly, is you need to learn how to get your legs into it.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. And just a couple of comments. Number one, most of the power of our body is located in our midsection and our lower body, the biggest muscles in the body. And so we have to learn how to use those, and then our range will increase considerably when we learn how to use that power.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, is that if you're trying to develop range on your shot, you can't just go from shooting those short, close shots to jumping back to 22 feet or whatever you want to shoot at. You really need to work kind of progressively back. If you're doing something like the form shooting drill, work on those close shots, master that, take a step back, master that, take a step back. Eventually you'll get to 20 feet, but you need to kind of put in the work. You don't want to just start out close and get really nice mechanics on that and then jump back, because if you do that, your mechanics are going to suffer because you're not going to have A, the strength, or B, really the muscle memory developed to be able to have good mechanics from that deep. So your shot's going to be kind of a basic heave. You really want to progressively work it back, and you'll find that that will make it easier for you to just be able to shoot it, period.
Yeah.
And two, you'll develop your mid-range game, which helps. Okay, this one is from Rashawn E-Boy, who says, how to improve lateral quickness. Okay, well, we're not going to get too deep into this because this isn't really something that we talk about too much, but we will say go check out Alan Stein's videos from Stronger Team. He tells you a lot about how to develop lateral quickness and just overall athleticism and agility. But, basically you want to work on things that are, essentially just repeated lateral movements.
And that are efficient. One of the things that is the biggest problem for lateral movement is that people tend to get their feet too close together.
Yeah.
They slide the feet really close together, and when they do that, the body starts to become more erect, and then we have to go back down. And so those are sticking points too. We spend time with our students on what we call step drag, and that is when we step out and we drag the other foot toward the other one, keeping the feet close to the floor. That helps you to maintain a better balance, but we never allow the feet to come together. Now, notice how close my hands are. We want the feet to stay a little further apart. So they're quick little steps. Step drag, step drag.
All right, this is from our buddy Nate Thompson, who's here every week, but it's not exactly a basketball question. He says, any idea how to fix shoulder knots? I'm experiencing major pain in my right shoulder, and I think it's after I slept on it wrong. I think I can feel 3 total knots. Okay, here's the thing. If you guys are feeling painful anything, you need to go to the doctor and get that fixed or figured out. Yeah. We cannot diagnose things. We can't really give you any medical advice other than that. But when it comes down to having like knots or muscle tightness, sometimes it can come down to being dehydrated. So you need to drink more water, or, it looks like you slept on it wrong. Maybe you need to work on how you sleep. I don't know. But the basic thing about, pain, whether you sprain an ankle or you hurt your knee or you have like some tightness or whatever, if it's painful, go to the doctor. I mean, that's what you got to do. Okay, this one is from Noah. I guess it's Saint Elena, who says, if I play football during the fall, will it hurt my basketball skills or help?
Well, it's just going to put you behind a little bit.
Well, hold on. That's if you are just exclusively doing football stuff.
Yeah.
If you are working on developing your skills during that time, basketball skills during that time period too, you'll probably be okay.
You'll still be behind.
What?
You'll still be behind because your focus is on different body movements. And even if you're working on your skills some, you're not going to devote that much time to it. You don't have that much time.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that, I mean, if you are working on keeping your skills while you're doing this other sport, I mean, I'm not saying that it's even possible because you're probably going to not have very much time, but you can do it. And football does, in some ways, translate a little bit to basketball because it's another athletic sport. But it will hold you back. Most likely
it will hold you back a little bit, but on the other side of that coin is that in a week or so you're usually picking right up to speed with everybody else.
A week or so?
Yep.
I don't know about that.
Well, actually what happens is that basketball players have to kind of get out of that short sprint mode and kind of get into the faster or the long sprint mode into the short sprint mode.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, here's one from Linguini33 who says, "Hey guys, how can I prevent knee and ankle pain? I stretch often and it doesn't bother me too much, but when it's good to prevent injuries and pain. Thanks. I really hope you guys have a nice day."
Oh, that's also an Alan Stein number there.
Defense for nice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I would say go check out Alan Stein's videos because he has specific videos on kind of strengthening your knees and ankles, and that's really where you should be going. If you're having pain, like we said, go to the doctor. That shouldn't be happening. We already had this one from Ajwad Iqbal, who says, "How can I increase my range?" We just talked about that. Lewiston says, "How can you ball?" Gotta go play. Let's see. John O2, who hit us up on Twitter just a few minutes ago, says, "I'm having a huge problem shooting free throws. I've gone 1 for 9 in the past 3 games. It's either short and hits the front of the rim or usually has good power and goes right. Any tips?"
Okay.
If you're short.
Well, I'm thinking that probably your arc is a little flat for one thing. Usually when you have a flat arc, you tend to be short and hit the front rim. I don't know if that's what's happening to you. But it says either short or hit the front rim. Yeah. Okay. And usually you don't have very good power and it goes right. If the ball is going right, you're probably pronating the wrist at the finish, just like this. And because as you release,
well, I don't think he's saying that.
I thought he did.
I think he's saying it usually has good power and goes right in.
Well, yeah, it goes right.
It goes right. It was a good shot. I think that's what he's saying.
Oh, goes right. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If you're shooting in games and you're going 1 for 9, put more effort into your practice of shooting free throws. And one of the things that we see a lot of the times with people that are shooting free throws is that they do well in practice and then they step into the games and it just goes to crap. And one of the reasons why that can be the case is because you're not practicing free throws at different periods of fatigue. during your practice. Maybe you come in and you just shoot free throws at the very beginning, and then you just go through your practice. You don't shoot them ever again. Well, you haven't experienced the deep fourth quarter fatigue and trying to shoot a free throw. So if you're doing that, then you can understand why when you step into the fourth quarter, you don't have the gas to be able to make those free throws.
Yeah.
So work on developing that during different periods of your fatigue. The other thing is just work on your free throws. If you're making 1 for 9, that's got to come down to your mechanics and stuff.
Yeah, one of the things that I see an awful lot of is players oftentimes start the ball down by their midsection on free throws, and then they pull the ball up here and then shoot it. And what happens is that gives you a couple of set points, and usually you're off. Your shot's off. Okay. And usually what we'll do is we'll say, okay, get your set point right here, if that's where you're going to shoot it from. And that's where we go. And what usually happens is their shot really starts to pick up right away. And instead of dipping it down, bringing it up, and then shooting it.
Well, it all comes back to having an efficient shot. I mean,
Yes.
the same thing is true with free throws as it is with anything else.
Yeah.
If you have all these variables going on, then you're going to have a hard time making that repeatable.
Well, and most people are kind of unaware of some of the things that they do. And so by bringing it up here, and some people will bring it here and then they'll bring it back like this and go, which creates a flat shot. What you want to do is get that ball into your set point. And we like the letter L here, the arm representing the letter L, and then just make sure that we get a nice extension from there. Usually your shots pick up, particularly if you're working on getting good arc on the shot.
Videotape yourself.
Yeah, that's really essential, I think, for having good arc on your shots.
Okay, videotape yourself and take a look at it. You might see some things that you were unaware that you're doing. Okay, lightning round, because we're out of time. So these are going to be quick answers to these questions, hopefully.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, here's Juan01134 says, "Hi, coach. How can I improve a faster jump shot in the mid-range?" Okay, work on eliminating all the variables. Footwork is the best way. If you have good 1-2 footwork, you're going to be much quicker. You're going to be much more on balance. You're going to be much more explosive. The 1-2 allows you to generate rhythm without having to do anything afterwards to generate rhythm. And it starts way before you catch or pull up the ball. And so you're taking care of a whole bunch of the shooting motion before you even really get the ball in your hands.
Yeah, before you catch it.
And so that's really what you want to do, is make sure you're rushing your feet, not your release. Because if you're rushing your release, you're going to have tension in your shot, and it's not going to be a good shot, right?
Inaccurate.
Okay, this one's from Juliet X, who says, "I used to be really good at layups, and they used to pretty much always go in. Now I'm missing even when no one's on me."
This comes down to one issue, and that is that you're not focusing your eyes on your target and putting the ball where your eyes are, putting your fingers where your eyes are. You want to take and follow through and put the fingers and the eyes right on your target, and you'll find that those will start to clean up for you.
All right, here's one. Yeah, okay, here's one from Klaus Muller, who says, "Is it fine to practice shooting on a somewhat uneven ground? Because where I live, I have no regular access to a decent court regularly." You got to do what you got to do.
Exactly.
So yeah,
it's better than doing nothing.
Yep. But maybe you can, while you're doing that, you can try to figure out another way to find a place to play that doesn't have the uneven ground. I mean, you just got to make it happen. Figure it out is what we like to say. Okay. YTV Kevin says, "How do I improve in game? Like when I practice, I can do everything: dribble well, shoot with a nice form, not missing layups. But in the game, as I try hard as I can, but I don't look like who I am. Instead, I look like a bum who just started playing basketball. I honestly think I'm very good, but just don't look good in game." Okay, we have a whole video on this where I think we talk about do well in practice, but not in games.
Yeah.
Essentially, what you're probably experiencing is the fact that you are doing all this great work in practice, but you're not doing game speed, game intensity, game specific scenario type of practice. So you need to also do the dial in diligent work, but you need to have this game speed, game intensity work where you take that stuff and you apply it to actually what you're going to see in a game and then get game experience. It's our basic 3 pillars of practice. So go check out that video on "I do well in games but I do well in practice but not in games." Jihad Mustafa says, improving ball handling, please help. Got to work on it.
That is the simple answer. You spend time on it, it's going to improve big time.
Okay.
See our videos on ball handling.
Yeah. Nico Jean Veridiano, who says, how do you compare Kyrie and Curry's shooting form? And in your opinion, whose form is better? Obviously, Curry lately is killing it, but the form in general, thanks. I don't think we've spent much time looking at Kyrie Irving's shooting form. I mean, I think it probably is fine, but Stephen Curry, he pretty much has the most efficient shot that you can get because he's not doing all these extra things where it can really kind of move into your accuracy and affect your accuracy. One of the things that he does really well is he doesn't have any hitches. He just goes right up into a shot. He typically has really good footwork. The only time where he adds anything where we would say it's not really favorable is when he's just catching the ball at a standstill and doing just a straight up shot. We don't like ever catching the ball at a standstill. We think you should always be moving towards the ball and have footwork into your shot because that will take away having to develop rhythm doing something else. Right. So in this scenario, we would probably err on Stephen Curry, but we'll take another look at Kyrie Irving's shot too. This one is from Mustafa again, who says, I have no left, and I know that if I did, it would make me so much better. How do I improve my ball handling? Got to put in the work. Yes. And your offhand is always going to be more difficult to develop than your strong hand because that's why it's your offhand. It just doesn't have the coordination really built into it.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of time. In fact, you will be greatly surprised if you've taken a lot yourself. 20 minutes of really hard work every day, just working on your offhand. Within a week, you're going to be surprised how much more it's going to grow.
Yeah, and we have drills that are specific to developing your weaker hand. So Go check that out. I think it's on our front page of our channel here, where we give you not only kind of our thoughts on developing your weaker hand, but also drills on how to do it. Yep. And, if you do things like the 5 and 3 drill, you're getting 3 dribbles on your strong side and 5 on your weaker side. That's going to help you bring that weaker side up to the level of your stronger side. Okay, let's see here. This one is from, I think we've already done that one. Johnny Justice says, people on my team always tell me I play scared, as in I never shoot or drive to the lane. What are some good moves to get to the lane and get a decent shot up or layup? Go check out our videos on the dribble attacks or any of the offensive moves. We have a playlist of just offensive moves, and we talk about the hammer, the jab step, the long 1-on-1. I mean, we have a ton of stuff in there. So we would just say, go check that out and get experience doing that stuff, and you will be in much better shape. This is from Andreas Olsen, who says, I'm right about 6 foot tall. My coach plays me at every position. What post moves can I use against bigger, taller players?
Go to our videos. We've got 2 or 3 there that are really effective.
You got more than 2 or 3, but just anything that you would do in the post, you can do against anybody, really. So yeah, check those out. Kenny Nguyen says, how can I make the ball spin like Kyrie Irving and where to aim? Okay, we already talked about where to aim. We say the nest. If you want to check out our video on that or rewatch the beginning of this video, do that. In terms of making the ball spin like Kyrie Irving, it's not so much, it's just a gentle backspin is what you want. Yeah. And when you do that, maybe you talk about, I'll grab a ball.
Yeah, one of the things that happens is if we spin the ball too fast, is that it develops all this captured energy. And when it runs into something like the rim, it expends that energy and usually bounces too far away. We like a real soft rotation where the ball from the free throw line to the basket maybe turns 2 complete rotations, no more than that. And that will make the ball very soft on the rim because not having all that extra energy to expend, it tends to be soft.
Okay, yeah, and here's how you get that kind of backspin release is that when the ball comes off, you have a very relaxed flop follow through. So it's going to come off like that. If you have tension, and a lot of people say flick like that. I mean, I could feel the tension in my hand doing that. And that's just going to make the ball spin really crazy.
And fast.
Well, that's what I mean, fast. Okay. And when it hits the target, it's going to expend that energy and just fly off. If you have a nice, gentle backspin, it will tend to stick around the rim and have kind of fingers. So make sure you have that nice flop wrist. Check out our videos on that. Okay, 2 more questions and we're done. Let's see. Wally LP says, my coach is teaching me to release the ball high. Is that good or the low release is better and consistent?
High release. High release. Yep.
Let's see.
And there's somebody, regards from Spain.
JRB20 channel, who says regards from Spain. Hey,
regards from California.
Yeah, spread the word in Spain. That would be awesome. Okay, let's this is gonna be our last one right here. This is from Gerbs G, who says, I have a huge problem during offense when I don't have the ball. I'm 5'6" and I give picks for other players to get them open, but they don't move. I cut, but it seems that it's not effective and get an open lane. I don't know if I'm running around too much or running around for nothing.
Well, one of the things that we spend so much time talking about with our students is learning to play without the basketball. So you're probably playing without the basketball, probably doing some good things, and maybe the people that you are playing with are not able to utilize the things that you do.
Well,
keep working on it. Keep working on it.
You can tell them what they need to do, not necessarily in games, but in practice and stuff. You can tell them, I'm gonna set a screen for you, and this is what you need to do. Maybe they just don't know. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Who knows? But also, you can talk to your coach if you have a coach. Let them know that this is kind of going on, and you want to be effective and have help from those guys. But if nobody knows what you're doing or what you're talking about, that can be a problem too. So,
or don't see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're moving without the ball, you're doing something that most people don't learn to do until much later, if at all. So that's great. Okay, so that's going to do it for us today, guys. If you want to follow us on any of our social media stuff, we are at Shot Science on everything, I think. So Twitter, we are at Shot Science, Facebook, Google+. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, because we put out all of our tutorial videos and just fun basketball fun basketball videos and stuff on there. So make sure you subscribe. Also, we are on Instagram, so if you want to follow us there, that's cool too, and we're there most every day. And make sure you're back next week for our show at 1 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday, where we will talk about a new topic and we'll answer all your guys' questions. Make sure you share that we do these shows, because that helps us get more cool guests over here. And I guess we will see you guys next time. And if you didn't watch highlights of that Klay Thompson game the other day, you should watch them. They were insane. He had 37 points in the third quarter, which is a record.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So we will see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
See ya.